When you're in your zone of genius and you're doing what you love, you are being. You are not doing, you're not even thinking. When you see people that are in a flow state, when you see Kobe Bryant making the game-winning shot, he was not thinking at all. You say, yo, yes he was. He was thinking, I'm going to go to the three-point line and I'm going to shoot it and it's going to go into the hoop. No, he was in a flow state. It just happened through him. There's very little thinking happen, and a lot of times when people do start thinking, that's when they overanalyze and mess it up. This is like when I go on stage. This last live event that I did in LA, I had a 2-day live event, about 6 to 7 hours a day of speaking, 0 content planned. I showed up, and whatever came through, came through. And then I worked with people and live coached people and brought people to the front of the stage. But it was like I just trusted the space and I allowed it to flow through. There was very little doing or thinking happening. In fact, the more I would end up thinking, the more I'd get in my own way. So I just stopped thinking. And this works for everybody. Anybody, when you're in a flow state, when you're doing what you love, when you're present to the moment, when you make it about the value you give, there's an energy that flows through you. But you don't have to do anything, you don't have to think. It just happens. And this takes, by the way, the pressure off. Doesn't it? It's funny because every time I run a live event, especially when there's nothing planned. It's just I show up and then I work with people, etc. Every time I do it, I begin to trust in myself more, in the process more, in God more, in the divine more. Because I realize I don't have to plan or anything. Of course, I'm preparing. When I say prepare, that means I find a cool shirt. I find cool outfits that I change into in between sets and I feel really in state. I go live here. I coach people in some of the programs I have and the challenges that I run. That gives me content. That gives me information that allows me to be in state. That gives me information of where people currently are. That's preparation. But I don't have to think my way to success. I'm going to think it. I'm going to think. And then I'm going to do, and 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 I'm going to try. No, don't do any of that. Don't do, be. How can you improve your flow state, someone's asking. You don't have to improve your flow state at all. The question is not how do you improve your flow state, because remember, you're not doing anything. You're not even thinking. You're choosing to get into the flow state. That's a different question. How can you recognize when you're in a flow state, and how can you choose to be in it more? How can you get out of your own way? How can you get out of your head? How can you follow your passion? How can you follow your excitement? Now, when I say follow your excitement, don't think I mean that you need to find the one thing you do the rest of your life and you need to figure it out right now. And if you don't figure it out, you're going to be behind and you're not going to be in the highest vibration. You're going to attract more negative synchronicity. No, I'm not saying that. Following your passion every moment. You can follow something, follow the thread of excitement. Maybe there's a certain subject you're into, a certain kind of book you enjoy reading. In 2012, when I went through my awakening, I became very passionate about watching seminars, reading books, learning. I followed that thread of excitement. Eventually, that thread of excitement led to making YouTube videos. It eventually did. But not right in that, not immediately. It was following the thread. That's a good point. Being coherent too. Now understand this. When I'm talking about being, whether it's on stage or whether it's you're in a flow state, there is mind and heart coherence that is happening. This is also a reflection of being in mind and heart coherence. You could do that through meditation. You're just putting the awareness in your heart for a few minutes a day. So realize, what have we learned so far in today's, and now, so for me, for example, getting into the flow state, anytime I get on these live this live that I'm doing right now on Instagram, what happens is the first 2 or 3 minutes, I'm hardly in a flow state. I literally have to what am I going to talk about in the beginning? And then I just wait for myself to get into a flow state. How many of you felt the moment I made this shift from just kind of riffing, and then I got into the flow state when I started talking about you're not thinking, you're not doing, you're being? How many of you could feel that shift even within my, expression today or whatever? Right? So how do I get more into a flow state? Well, I have to first off be willing to get into the flow state and to accept that I'm not going to get into the flow state immediately. It's like, if we use this Kobe Bryant example, it's like Kobe Bryant going on the court and expecting right away to be in a flow state. What do they do before they get into a flow state? They warm up. Before the game, they warm up. They threw a whole bunch of shots, and guess what? They throw a lot of shots they don't make. They miss. And then eventually they start getting into a rhythm, and then they start making more shots. But imagine you put yourself a pressure. The moment I get on the court, I'm going to make and drain every three. Pressure, pressure, pressure. No, they got to warm up. But they have to have the courage to step on the court. And also sometimes the competition of being in the basketball game gets them into state. Me getting on an Instagram Live, which I used to do more often, but having 300-ish people here right now, while I do this, it creates the pressure for me to get into state. And I have to accept that the first 2 or 3 minutes of going live, I may not be in state. Sometimes it takes 8 or 10 minutes to get into state. Sometimes it's only the last 20 minutes of these lives that I do that I get into state, or whatever it is. If I go live for 30 minutes, it's the last 15, 20 minutes. So for 10 or 15 minutes, I'm diddling around intending to find that flow state. That flow state happens also through the bouncing off of you. When people are commenting, I've realized, so I will say through taking action and trying different things, I've become aware of what gets me into a flow state more. I know that when I'm on stage in front of so many people and I have nothing planned, I trust and know that information flows through because of that pressure. So in an interesting way, I use that. I use going live and having 300-ish people here commenting, asking questions as a way of getting into that flow state. I do better doing this than I do if I just use a camera and I just start the camera and I'm like, okay, go, and there's no one on the other end. Does that make sense? So to get into a flow state, you can warm up and put yourself in situations where you'll get more into a flow state over time. Also, have the courage to step into the pressure. There can be I'm saying don't put pressure on yourself, but also at the same time, one of the easiest, if I were to sit here for 20 minutes and think of what is the best hook I can do, well, hook is the very first part of these Instagram Live that I do. Because the thing with Instagram Live is when I go live on Instagram, if the video doesn't start with a strong hook, it's it doesn't reach that many people. And if my goal is to impact people and have people watch this video, you want the hook to be good. But then you put pressure and importance on the hook to be good, and then it could come out forced. Whereas I know 2 or 3 minutes into the video when I pop into a flow state, that's the best hook. But I can't go back on Instagram and just clip out the first 3 minutes. So I have to have the courage and the willingness to just get into a flow state. I have to be okay with it maybe not being the best hook or whatever. And I have to trust that by putting myself of service to those watching, I will fall into a flow state. And the more consistently I do it, the more I do get into a flow state, which is interesting. I used to say this a lot. I used to say that making daily videos at a certain point was easier than making one video a week. Why do you think that is? I used to go live back in the day. I used to go live every day on Instagram. Back in the day, I would post once a day I would go live once a day on Instagram. I'd post an IG reel once a day. I'd send an email once a day, and I'd make daily YouTube videos. How did I do all that? To be honest, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I look back now and I'm like, I used to do all of that. Here's the thing. I wasn't doing it. You're like, okay, now Aaron's being mystical. I wasn't doing it. It was like people would say, how do you make daily videos on YouTube? You want to know what I would say? Caffeine. I'm just kidding. I didn't drink caffeine. You want to know what I would say? I don't know. I'm just being, like, I saw myself as a daily YouTuber or whatever, and then I was doing it, and it was being it or whatever, and people would say, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. It's easy. It's easy because it's natural. It's like when you first start going to the gym and it feels weird, and you judge yourself, and you think everyone's looking at you go to the gym. Everyone's judging you on the treadmill. Not one person is thinking about you. Everyone, literally everyone thinks about themselves pretty much most of the time. Isn't that kind of freeing? Isn't it freeing to realize that most people are just thinking of themselves? Like even when I'm on stage with 100 plus people in a room with nothing planned, I'm the only one speaking maybe, or maybe I'm coaching someone, even then, people are thinking about how what I'm saying applies to them. They're not even thinking about me. Even in that case. And then you go to the gym or you go out in public and you think everyone's thinking about you. They're not. You might say that's kind of sad. I want everyone to think about me. It's freeing. It's liberating. Everyone is thinking of themselves most of the time. So if you knew that, and you knew that if people even judge you, they're judging what you represent to them. They're not even judging you. They're judging what you represent to them, because everything is a reflection. Freedom. There's freedom in this awareness. There's freedom in this information. You become free the moment you realize everyone is thinking of themselves, and anything you do or any judgment they have towards you is more so a judgment about what that represents to the person, of what you are reflecting back to them. The more successful I've become, the more there is also both positive and negative feedback from people. Judgment, jealousy, and also people that send their love and love what I'm doing. It's both sides of the coin. There's acceptance there. So understand that when it comes to success, when it comes to you being and you getting into a flow state, have the courage to step into that flow state. Have the courage to put in reps. And you're not just putting in the reps because you're going to do it because doing gets the result. Maybe the doing gets you more natural into the vibration of being. Think about that. You doing these things, like back in the day I was making daily videos on YouTube. I got more and more comfortable with it. And then eventually that doing became a being because it became natural for my identity. Just like you could say, I'm going to go to the gym and do a workout. And then you do that, and it's kind of weird. You think everyone's looking at you. Everyone's focused on themselves, looking at themselves in a freaking mirror. You do realize that, right? Why are there mirrors all around gyms? Because everyone's just thinking about themselves. Literally, there's mirrors. You go to the gym, everywhere you look is a mirror. And then you think everyone's thinking about you. They're looking in the mirror. They're looking in the mirror, and the only reason people at the gym are thinking of you is they're wondering if you're thinking of them. Isn't that funny? Think about that. We go around this world thinking everyone's thinking of us. And the only thing everyone's thinking about when they think about you is what you think about them. Like most of the time. I'm not saying everybody, obviously. There's breakthroughs in freedom when you start saying, I don't care, I'm just going to be myself. But when you go to the gym, there's a mirror. Everywhere you look, there's mirror. Now you look around, everyone's looking at themselves in the mirror. Everyone's looking at themselves in the mirror. Everyone's looking at themselves in the mirror. And you say, people are looking at me. And they're only looking at you because they wonder what you're thinking of them. So funny. So, the freedom is when you stop modifying yourself for other people and you start just being you. Now, the doing, so what happens within a couple weeks of doing, going to the gym, and you think everyone's thinking about you, and then you realize everyone's focused on themselves, or they're wondering what you think of them more than they're just judging you. After a couple weeks, what do you start to do? You start to see yourself as a gym goer. You're no longer going to the workout to do a workout. You're working out. There's a huge difference there. Listen to what I'm saying, because it sounds simple. The first 2 or 3 weeks of going to the gym, you are doing a workout. You're doing it. And then what do you say after 3 weeks of going to the gym? What are you going to go do? I'm going to go work out. You're going to go be. It's more of a being energy than it is I'm going to go do. It's a part of who I am. Do you see the difference there? You can apply this towards anything. 2017, I applied this towards making videos. I'm going to go do making a YouTube video. And then eventually, after months of doing this and becoming a full-time YouTuber, I quit my 9-to-5 job. Just the making the videos is the way it's who I am. And now I've, in a way, expanded myself beyond that, and now I'm running live events. But remember, I'm not doing it. I'm actually not doing anything. I show up, information flows through. I have the courage to show up, though. I have the courage to have nothing planned and to allow it to flow through and to bring people to the front of the room and to coach people and stuff like this. It does take courage, but you don't have to do anything. Any friends that I have that also do what I do of speaking and running live events, it's really just getting into a flow state. That's all it is. It's getting into a flow state, which is not doing. But you have to have the courage to show up. So my lesson for you today is, do you have the courage to show up? Are you putting yourself into opportunities to get into a flow state? Are you allowing pressure to be a portal for you? The pressure can be a good thing. When I come on here and have 300 people here, and I don't know what I'm going to talk about, and I just have the first sentence I'm going to talk about, and then I have the courage to know that for the first 2 or 3 minutes, I'm not going to be in a flow state, but then I know that eventually I'm going to pop into a flow state, and then everything's going to be fine. I didn't even know what I was going to talk about when I started this Instagram live, really. What did I even say? I don't remember. You want to know? Most of the time when I get done with these Instagram lives and I go live for 20 or 30 minutes, after I go live, I have to type in what this live was about and then post it. And you want to know what? Most of the time, I don't remember. Within 2 seconds of ending this live, I will say, what did I talk about? And the only thing I'm going to know is I talked about a flow state. Maybe that is the only thing I talked about. But I know I shared some stories. I shared the energy of being. I shared, in the flow state, I have access to more information. When I get out of the flow state after this live call, I'm going to sit there for like 5 minutes trying to remember what I talked about. And I can't go rewatch it to remember. So I got to kind of guess what we talked about this entire 30 minutes-ish. And sometimes I don't even remember. Can you imagine? Imagine making a 20-minute video. You push the button that you finish the video, and then you go over to the computer to upload the footage, and you don't remember what you just talked about for 25 minutes at all. You're like, what did I talk about? Isn't that crazy? That's kind of weird, right? Where did the information go? But when you get into the state, then it all becomes you remember it all. I remember hearing about this. It's going to sound esoteric. I remember reading about or hearing about this. Someone talk about this civilization. It's going to sound such like a. Should I share it? It's so out there. There's this civilization that I've heard Bashar talk about. It's called Thuk. It's so weird. Okay, but the idea. I don't know if this is true or not. Whatever. Okay, I said it. But what if there was a civilization, and what they could do is, when you're in their presence, you can remember everything about them. But imagine that what then happens is when you leave their presence, you completely forget about them. Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, it's called Thuk. It's a very interesting thing. But understand that what if that technology is kind of like when you get into a flow state, which means that when you leave their presence, by the way, you don't remember anything about them at all. It's almost like the show Severance. I think the new season on apparently It's like where you go to work and you remember who you are, you like, they have no idea who you are in real life. Like the idea is you sever work-life balance. And the whole show is about like this split and trying to figure out who you are in the other life or in the work life versus what are you doing for the job you work for, and then in personal life you have no idea. Very interesting concept, right? But what if you're in a flow state? That kind of happens. Which is why when I get done with this live, the only thing I'm going to remember is flow state. I'm not going to remember anything else that I talked about. All the analogies or the examples I shared, the gym thing I probably won't remember, even though I remember it right now, because I'm in the state. Now, by the way, the next live event, this is where I'm at right now. I am in Miami. And being in Miami, I'm doing a Miami live event, February 22nd, 23rd. It's a Saturday, Sunday. It's a 2-day live event. Hot seat coaching, bringing people to the front, and live guided meditations. It's all going to also be virtually streamed, so if you can join from anywhere in the world. It's going to be a lot of coaching. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. I found an awesome, epic venue here in Miami. It's actually in Coconut Grove, like 10 minutes south of Miami, and a really cool venue. If you want to join either virtual in person, comment or DM me the word Vortex, VORTEX, and you can come either virtual, anywhere in the world. And what you're going to learn is how to elevate your vibration, how to remove the blocks to you elevating your vibration to the next level you, letting go of the old stories, beliefs, identities, labels that are keeping you trapped in the past. It's really about changing and transforming the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is keeping you trapped in the past, in the familiar. When you let go of the subconscious mind, you become free. So what happens is in this live event, you're going to learn how to remove the blocks, how to remove the masculine or feminine wound that may be holding you back, how to heal and look at the energy of mom and dad and how that gets projected on different areas of your life, how to heal the inner child inside of yourself. We'll probably do some form of breath work. There will be a breath work as a part of that. It's basically from about 11 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time till about 5:30 each day, and there will be replays if you can't make it live, so if you're in virtual. So you can comment the word Vortex, I can send it to you. But yeah, show up in person. A lot of people travel in for these live events, or you can show up virtual from anywhere in the world. And you just respond the word Vortex. And it's February 22nd, 23rd. And they're pretty magical. They take on a life of their own. So what are some of the biggest... So to summarize everything that we talked about today, because I'm in a flow state and I have access to the information right now, understand that getting into a flow state is having the courage to follow the thread of excitement. Maybe that thread of excitement is reading certain books, learning certain concepts. Maybe when you have the courage to do so, the more you do it, the more you start to be it, the easier it gets. Understand that there's freedom that comes when you realize everyone is at the gym looking at themselves in the mirror. They're not thinking of you. And the only time they really think of you is when they're wondering what you think of them. There's freedom in that. Focus on being the new version of you. Not on just doing. Maybe doing is a portal to eventually being, but be it because it's who you choose to be. Focus on getting into a flow state. Focus on making it about what flows through you. It's not about thinking. It's not about doing. It's about being. And the more you be it, the more you will then start to experience more synchronicities and opportunities that come into your life as a reflection. So anyways, I'm going to post this, the replay. You can watch it later. Share it if you found it powerful. And other than that, thank you for being here. Hope to see you at the Miami Live event, February 22nd, 23rd. Either virtual or in person. And other than that, I'll do one of these soon. I haven't been doing these as much, so if you want me to do more of them, maybe comment and let me know. Anyways, as always, peace, much love, and namaste. Now, if you want to learn step-by-step how to apply the frame technique to feel safe in your own reality, to feel confident in your own frame, then I show step-by-step in a free YouTube video how to apply the frame technique. It's a guided meditation process where I explain it along the way. It's a meditation that is very easy to do, requires no meditation experience. So if you want to check out that video, I'm gonna go ahead and put the frame technique right here. Welcome to the frame technique meditation and activation.